justice, temperance, wisdom, courage. Applying ancient philosophy to modern times, this is the Sunday Stoic.
Welcome to the Sunday Stoic. This is Steve, and thank you to everyone who's emailed, especially recently Simon, who emailed the show with some suggestions and some words of encouragement. Thank you for letting me know you're out there and listening, and for having some ideas for the show. Another bit of housekeeping. I hate to sound like NPR or something here, but I've reached the limit for the free account on Spreaker for the podcast hosting. I have 5 hours of material, and in order to continue, I have to pay, and it's going to cost me about $6 a month or a year for $50, actually $59, I guess, for hosting, where I'll have 100 hours of storage available on the website. And of course, there are more advanced platforms than that. So I'll just put this out there. I'll keep paying for a little while. I told my wife I'd try not to lose money doing a podcast. I'm not planning on making money, but if you have a couple extra bucks and can throw it at the show so I can pay for hosting, I only need $60. So if everyone that listens to the show would give me a quarter, we'd probably about get there. But you can follow the link in the show notes to PayPal and give me a couple bucks. I'd appreciate it. I'll put it towards hosting on the show. If we get more than the needed amount for a year of hosting, I can put it towards recording equipment or developing a website or something. But that's all the begging I'm going to do. Today's episode is, should women study Stoicism? The answer? Duh. Of course. But I thought it'd be interesting to see what the ancients had to say about it, the ancient Stoics. And we're going to focus on the one Stoic who has said anything about it at all, as far as I can tell. I'm sure there's some other writings out there, but we're going to look at Musonius Rufus, the teacher of Epictetus. So we'll have 2 readings by Musonius today. Somewhat short episode this week, but a lot of you said you like short episodes, so I guess that's okay. So how has your Stoic training been going? Are you doing more than listening to the show? Are you doing some readings on your own? If not, I highly recommend checking out some of the modern Stoics. There are a couple of books out there. How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. The Guide to the Good Life by William Irvine are very good. And there are others. I know there's a book on being a Stoic by Donald Robertson that I'd like to check out. I don't own it yet. I have not purchased that one. But I think it'd be interesting to check out some of the works by Donald Robertson, because he's not a philosopher per se, as far as I can tell, but he is a psychiatrist. So he brings that kind of psychiatric self-help portion of Stoicism into focus. So that might be an interesting one to check out, some of his works. He has 2 books out I'm most interested in. One is Teach Yourself Stoicism, and the other one is Teach Yourself Resilience. And he's the guy who's been leading the Stoic mindfulness and resilience training that I've been doing. And I referenced that in a previous show. You should check out the Modern Stoicism page. I think they're going to do another one of those, maybe 1 or 2 a year, those online Stoic mindfulness courses. Maybe we should try that. I should try to record a mindfulness meditation track to annoy the hell out of all of you. So let's hear from Musonius Rufus to find out what the ancients thought about women studying philosophy. The Fragments of Musonius Rufus, Chapter 3, that women too should study philosophy. When someone asked him if women too should study philosophy, he began to discourse on the theme that they should in somewhat the following manner. Women, as well as men, he said, have received the gift from the gods, the gift of reason, which we use in our dealings with one another, and by which we judge whether a thing is good or bad, right or wrong. Likewise, the female has the same senses as the male, namely sight, hearing, smell, and the others. Also, both have the same parts of the body, and one has nothing more than the other. Moreover, not men alone, women too, have a natural inclination toward virtue and the capacity for acquiring it. And it is in the nature of women no less than men to be pleased by good and just acts and to reject the opposite of these. If this is true, by what reasoning would it ever be appropriate for men to search out and consider how they may lead good lives, which is exactly the study of philosophy, but inappropriate for women? Could it be that it is fitting for men to be good, but not for women? Chapter 4. Should daughters receive the same education as sons? Once when the question arose as to whether or not sons and daughters ought to be given the same education, he remarked that trainers of horses and dogs make no distinction in the training of the male and the female. For female dogs are taught to hunt just as the males are, and one can see no difference in the training of mares if they are expected to do horses' work and the training of stallions. In the case of man, however, it would seem to be felt necessary to employ some special and exceptional training and education for males over females, as if it were not essential that the same virtues should be present in both alike, in man and woman, or as if it were possible to arrive at the same virtues not through the same but through different instruction. Yet, that there is not one set of virtues for a man and another for a woman is easy to perceive. In the first place, a man must have understanding, and so must a woman, or what, pray, would be the use of a foolish man or a woman? I'm not a woman, as you may have noticed, and sometimes it's hard for me to appreciate how it might be different to get into something like Stoicism when there are no ancient voices that are of your gender or of your sex, and not that I wouldn't appreciate a woman author and women won't appreciate male authors, but to see yourself reflected in the philosophy has a benefit. But at least we see here that 2,000 plus years ago, while the Stoics were not the most open-minded people who have ever existed, right? They lived in the Roman Empire, the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire, when there were slaves, and men and women definitely had different roles that were expected of them. But they still said that women and men are the same by nature. We see that thing where he said dogs are not trained differently whether if they're male or female. So biologically, by nature, if we treat dogs this way, why wouldn't you treat humans this way? We have the same basic drives, the same quest for virtue. We're the same biologically with, a couple of minor differences. It only makes sense that we would be trained the same way. We're trying to get the same outcomes here. You don't want a foolish man or a foolish woman in your household. Why would you train them differently? So you can check out those readings further. Those, of course, are just little snippets of the lectures by Musonius Rufus. I highly recommend checking out his work. There's only fragments of his work remaining. It's a pretty quick read, but a lot of good stuff in there. So this week, I didn't actually throw out a bit of Stoic advice on living other than treat women the same as men, damn it. So I'm going to give you another little snippet of Musonius Rufus to give you something to think about this week. Chapter 13, Part A. What is the chief end of marriage? The birth of a child cannot be the only motive for marriage, since procreation could result from sexual relations apart from marriage, just as when animals mate. In marriage there must be, above all, companionship and care of husband and wife for each other, both in sickness and in health, on every occasion. Each party entering into marriage desires this, after all, just as they desired children. When this mutual care is complete, and those who live together provide it to each other completely, each competes to surpass the other in giving such care. Such a marriage is admirable and deserves emulation. Such a partnership is beautiful. All right, whether you be married or not, remember, the chief end of your marriage or your relationships with others is to care for each other. We are a cosmopolitan people. So stay stoic and carpe diem. Email the show if you want to volunteer to read or have topics to suggest. SundayStoic@gmail.com. And check me out on Facebook, and I'll catch you later.